Second, declarations of interest. Any additional declarations of interest other than standing declarations? No. Any urgent items?
No, Chair.
We now turn to the record of the meeting held on the 31st of January 2024. We've got some draft minutes. And I had one comment on those, but before I make that, any other observations, comments, changes? No. In the minutes, on the second page, I think it is, under item 5, when we were discussing the planning enforcement, right at the bottom, it says that I suggest an amendment to the text and raised a question on reference to the phrase motivated by planning harm. And then the next bit of the sentence doesn't seem to make any sense at all, which probably means that it might be accurate. But I think just for coherency of the minutes, I'm suggesting that we move the second phrase because, and so everything after the comma that comes out of that sentence, and then it just reads, so ends with planning harm. Then we have the words "odds confirm this point will be clarified in the final version." And I noticed that the final version on the website has included clarification of that point. Anything else on the minutes? Can we agree the minutes?
Agree.
Okay. So we then move on to item 5, which is items for consideration, and that is the Cable Wharf Primary School Reserve Matters application. And we're going to deal with this in the normal way, in accordance with our terms of reference, which are published. So the order of events is this. First of all, officer presentation from Wendy, who's going to speak to us for up to 10 minutes. No objectors registered to speak. So we then go to supporters. You get 5 minutes in total. How you use your 5 minutes is entirely up to you. But we just bear in mind that this is a reserve matters application. The principle of a school here is not in issue. It is established by the Outline Planning Commission, and the matters before us are appearance, landscaping, layout, and scale. So that's what's relevant to our decision. But up to you how you use your time. We get to it. So unless there are any questions about how we're going to go about it, we then, well, I should say after that, your 5 minutes will not be interrupted. But after that, we may have some questions for you, and then we'll have a debate about the issue, and then we'll make a decision. Any questions about procedure? No, jolly good. Well, let's get down to the business and hand over to you, Wendy.
Thank you very much. I would draw your attention to the supplementary agenda, which has a few minor wording changes to the reports and the additions of environmental impact assessment summary. So the proposal before you tonight, or this afternoon, is a reserve matters application made by the Kent County Council for 2 form entry primary school, including a nursery and a special resource provision unit. The application is made pursuant to conditions 3, 5 and 56 of the outline part of the hybrid planning commission for the Cable Wharf development. Cable Wharf is a residential-led development within the North East and Bankside strategic development area. The school area in pink is intended to be, well, the school is intended to be operational in September 2025. This photograph shows the site in relation to Rosherville, which is at the top of the cliffs. The Cable Wharf development, which is under construction in this photograph, as well as the commercial areas to the west of the site. The site itself was historically part of the Rosherville Pleasure Gardens and is now mostly flat and bare. The cliffs to the rear of the site are known to support roosting and feeding bat populations, and the proposal has regard to the need to protect habitat and spaces, as well as species, as well as having particular regard to the living conditions of neighbours surrounding the site. Internally, the configuration of the school has 3 key areas: classrooms facing east and west, the staff area across 2 stories, staff and admin support in the blue area in the corner of the building here, and front and Cretal Road is a double height school hall in the kitchen. The energy statement supplied with the application details measures to achieve a carbon net zero school, including the use of air source heat pumps, which have air terminals on the roof, a large photovoltaic array on the roof of the building, planting of a green roof, very airtight and efficient building fabric, and the installation of electric vehicle charging points. If carbon net zero is achieved, this will exceed the outlined planning permission requirement of BREEAM Excellent as an efficiency and sustainability target. What this plan shows is that the school site itself has been reduced and now excludes the blue areas to the north and south of the site as coming under the school management. These blue areas will be retained by Keepmoat Homes. The area to the south will be kept as grassland ecology habitat and allow also for future cliff maintenance. The area to the north will be become part of the street landscaping and managed as such. The layout of the site is very logical and efficient for the use of the site both by the school and the community, which is a requirement of the Section 106 agreement. The layout allows for direct access to the classrooms on the ground floor level, and also includes dedicated outdoor teaching and play spaces on the eastern side, which is to serve the nursery, reception classes, and a special resource provision unit. The staff car park is accessed from a new access off Creek Hall Road. This will be available both for clearly staff for the school and also for the community use outside of school hours. We then have a drop-off and pick-up area, which is accessed up McClure Road, and this will be gated when the school is closed. Externally, there'll be a 3G under 11s pitch and 2 multi-use games area. All of these are proposed to be floodlit. Internally, for community use, will be available the school hall and the practical classroom, which is at first floor level. A draft community use strategy has been provided with the application that demonstrates a generous ambition for the community use of the school facilities, and the final agreement of those details is to be agreed by the use of a planning condition. The location of the pitches and proposed hours of use will not result in harm to the neighbours' living conditions. The floodlights around the sports pitches takes account of the sensitive bat habitat to the south, cliffs, and will be controlled by planning condition. And lastly, on the slide, the landscape strategy shows that over time, the school would become enclosed by hedgerow planting around all of the perimeters, with woodland buffer in this area adjacent to the employment area, and on the southern boundary adjacent to the ecology area, a proposed larger woodland species that will further increase biodiversity enhancement and filter any light spill from the floodlights. In relation to the matter of scale, the school building will be mostly 2-storey with single-storey ends. Scale is considered to be appropriate in relation to the surrounding houses and will not result in harm to the neighbours' living conditions, overshadowing or dominating their outlook. The applicant has brought together a number of local references in the final architecture of the building, use of grey concrete brick in 2 tones to reference the chalk cliffs. Then we have 2 towers to reference the former Washerville towers and the former Washerville pleasure gardens. tall groupings of windows at the upper floor level, serving the school hall on the Creek Hall Road facade. These reference the local Henley building, and we have a sawtooth roof design on the Creek Hall Road facade that would reference industrial buildings or industrial buildings within the area. The applicant has more recently also designed a scheme of feature brickwork to further lift the visual interest and the public facades of the building and create more depth and variation in the brickwork areas fronting onto Creek Hall Road and McClure Road. So those are demonstrated in the insets. And here we have the McClure Road elevation. And again, we just have those feature brickwork shown here, including between all the windows at first floor level. This is the internal facade to the school playing fields and playground. This view also shows the ambition for the plaza entrance area of the school, which will create a welcoming and inclusive arrival point at the school and also allow for the congregation of parents and carers waiting to collect children. The plan shows that under the current proposal includes the need for some minor highway works within the McClure Road to create a safe pedestrian crossing point for this southern pupil access gate, which is here. And this will also, and there's also the requirement for future road markings. McClure Road is a private road. The local highway authority advised they're in discussion with Keepmoat Homes for the road to be adopted as public highway before the school opens. Some conditions are recommended to control the implementation of these highway works. And the applicant has also provided a parking management plan to ensure the drop-off and pick-up area operates efficiently. And this can also be controlled by planning condition. And so overall, subject to the planning conditions proposed and listed within the committee report, it's considered that the proposed school development would operate very well for the various ages and needs of the intended school population, and also for the community users, the site outside of school hours. There's a civic building within the area. The school would have a very distinct character, interesting appearance, and over time, the proposed landscape strategy would further enhance the setting of the school building and increase the greening of the street scene. The proposal would not result in harm to neighbours and communities, and it would acceptably address matters of ecological interest of the site, heritage interest, sustainability and traffic flow. As such, the application is recommended for approval.
Thank you very much indeed, Wendy. Very helpful, informative and effective. So thank you for that. Going to hand over then, being no objectors, to supporters, and you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members. Thank you for the opportunity to address the Planning Committee today. My name is Sophie Lamarck and I am Project Architect at Learners Partnership. As reflected in the committee report issued before you this afternoon, we have worked closely with the planning and design officers of EDC, ensuring the proposed development can achieve the key aspirations that were highlighted in January's committee briefing. The proposal has been designed to respond to the Design for Ebbsfleet guidance, plus the Department for Education's output specification. The design, construction and operation of the building follows a sustainable approach, delivering a net zero carbon, fossil fuel free building. The proposed development provides significant opportunities for not only the existing school, but the current and future community through a number of new facilities, including a large hall, a practical classroom and a 3G floodlit pitch. From the early concept stages, the school has always been at the heart of the project, creating healthy, high quality environments for students to learn and thrive in. The proposal follows the guidelines that are defined within the hybrid planning application and the Section 106 agreement for Northfleet Embankment East, adhering to both local and national policies. The appearance, layout and landscaping approach has been well considered to provide visual impact, but also a safe space for children. The proposal helps towards EDC's overall vision for Northfleet Riverside, delivering a school building that celebrates the historical heritage and character of the local Fleet Hive narrative. The project team have worked collaboratively with the planning officers, the design officers, and other key stakeholders in developing the scheme through pre-app engagement, material workshops, and design reviews. We have continued to evolve the proposal based on recent feedback and discussions, incorporating the enhancements into the design and the overall appearance. The proposal responds positively to the need and aspirations for a new school, recognising the local surroundings and ensuring a successful learning environment for its pupils. Thank you.
Anybody else from the applicant? No need. Thank you very much. Very helpful. Right, well, let's turn to committee members and see whether there are any questions you would like to ask, comments they'd like to make. Anybody like to go first? You stunned us in silence by the presentation.
We did speak quite considerably of this when we actually saw this one. I see that I personally, I do like this. It's very nice. I still have apprehensions about parking issues, but I don't think there's anything we'll be able to mitigate against. Unfortunately, we were concerned, I think, before about lighting interior. Didn't know whether you've done anything to actually mitigate against that, because it seems to be I think it was the internal.
There has been a change to deal with that.
Yeah, I just wondered if you could just walk us through that.
Yes, so since that initial briefing, we have incorporated roof lights. The way that the corridors are designed, we have kind of group room alcoves which have roof lights. But the brief that this design is based upon, that the DfE output spec, you have a daylight report and a certain parameter to achieve daylight within these areas, and we have the daylight assessment that proves that it does achieve this.
I certainly was encouraged to see that and grateful that you'd responded and provided those lights.
Thank you.
Valerie.
Yes, I absolutely endorse that. I think it was probably one of my comments at the earlier meeting. It's really good. There's a lot of evidence that shows children perform much better. Such amount of data. I'm sure we will do actually, but anyway, it does improve academic performance. I think as well that you've also improved the detailing on the facades now, which I think is to be welcomed. It's a very dull question, but just looking at that sawtooth with the panelling above, how on earth are you going to drain it? Is there a secret gutter behind? So otherwise, I can see it becoming really stained. You know, if you're going to drop gutters everywhere. I know it's only a CGI, but have you thought that far ahead? Because it's a new detail, as it were.
No, and it's a fair question. So the way that the roof is pitched, it kind of goes towards the sides, the west, east and west elevations. So that's why there's no drainage. We've tried to avoid having rainwater pipes on the north elevation so that the falls are on the east and west side.
So there's an internal gutter, is there, that runs all the way behind the facade?
It falls backwards away from the road effectively. Yeah. So the detailing that you're seeing there, Sophie's explained, it's not deep enough to require double-sided gutter, so it's falling back. There is, you are quite right, because it's counterintuitive to have the higher level behind the lower level. I totally understand. But we've actually produced, Sophie with our technology team put together the detail. We've provided the details as part of the plan application of how that structure is actually put together. You would, as you quite rightly say, you would normally put the higher level over the lower level. So it is possible.
Yes, I mean, you know, it's quite dramatic, but it would be awful if it was just completely splashed with water every time.
Absolutely.
But it's great as well that I think you've changed the windows, haven't we? I know you've been using windows, and it's really good news. What about the landscaping? How can we make sure that that is completely delivered? Because again, it's a large site. It's got a strong perimeter, hasn't it? And it really would benefit from having landscape planted, delivered. You know, sure that's going to happen.
I think there's a planning condition already relating to that. There is a full landscape scheme. And suggest what will be the simplest way to secure that is by condition.
Thank you. And similarly with highways, because that's the other thing that's it's potentially congestion, isn't there? And typical, management issues, particularly around drop-off collection point at the beginning and end of the day, and to otherwise be quite busy street frontages.
In a similar way, subject to, as Wendy pointed out, adoption and various other things to do with the nature of some of the circulatory roads around the site. Condition would probably be the most sensible way to suggest. But at the moment, as Wendy pointed out, there are some things that need to happen in order to adoption of those conditions to be enacted.
I mean, KCC is promoting the scheme, but presumably KCC therefore will adopt those roads in due course.
I believe that would be the intention.
I think they're in quite advanced discussions with people in terms of there's an aspiration that would be adopted before the end of this year.
That's correct. Yeah, just to put a bit more meat on the bones of that. The expectation is roughly about a year or so for adoption. Then obviously the traffic regulation orders can follow that. Putting that just to one side, there is a parking management plan which is looking to be secured through the planning commission, which would monitor the start and end of the school day, soft starts, breakfast clubs, after school clubs, staggered start and finish times, to try and spread that out a little bit, so the drop off and pick up being overseen, to make sure people aren't kind of, one of the better phrases, loitering. They are doing what they need to do, turn up, pick up the kids, drop off the kids and go again. Equally though, it is being placed in an area where there's a lot of houses around it, so there is the opportunity to promote that sustainable transport. And indeed, the existing school has virtually no drop-off, pick-up parking whatsoever. So it's ingrained in the current pupils and parents that actually walking is the right thing to do. So putting all those things together, I think we're quite confident there is the opportunity to manage that drop-off and pick-up at the start and end of the day.
Thank you very much. Well, overall, I agree with Councillor Moore. Actually, I think it's great that you've listened. I think the scheme is improved. I very much like the dual use within the scheme, so much community use as well as educational use. And I actually think it's going to be an attractive addition. Thank you.
But forgive me if this doesn't fall within the remit of our meeting today, but one of the things we did discuss last time was the accessibility from the communities on the southern cliff face down into the school. Because as you quite rightly say, they're used to walking to school. They're not used to walking down a lot of steps to school. Back up steps from the school. Also, there's the question of disability, whether people with disabled wheelchairs, etc., can access that. I would suggest possibly not. So there is going to be possibly a displacement in the fact that there will be people who probably used to walk who may now drive because they can't get down the step. I also assume, shouldn't, that Kent will take over that particular pathway from the lower pits to the actual top, in the same way as they will adopt the roads in that area. They tend to adopt.
I believe it's already managed via Kent Highways. That's our contact point. We've already spoken to them, Kent members have spoken to them, made it very clear the requirements, because instead of being an occasional use, it's going to be a regular use path. We've asked for lighting, concave. Thanks. One of those mirrors. The councillors at the cabinet members have also want CCTV on it, because there is a blind section in effect. That is really strongly being put to them, but strangely, Wendy helped me find out the route. It is actually already managed by via Kent Highways and through like the green transport section.
It would normally have been, I have to say, but
it is something we've raised this.
Can't do much about it, but it's worth keeping them on their toes to make sure.
But we raised this last year because we knew it's no good doing it at the last minute. So that's already in, and they get a nudge. You've done it yet. But it definitely, it has to be lit, and that was our starting point, and it's sort of, well, obviously vegetation is going to be cut down drastically. And we're going for drastic because then it will come back to a nice level.
Sure. No, that's fantastic.
Important points. Anything else?
Yes, I wasn't involved in the earlier discussion, but knowing what I do about schools, there always tends to be a problem, accessibility and congestion, with litter and safety, with noise, and with the lights affecting other local residents. Now, I'm sure these have all been addressed, but I'm happy with some suggestions being made at present about how staggering starts, things like that. But there always does tend to be around schools distinct problems for local communities and residents, even if they're using the local school.
And hopefully quite a few, well, children and parents will be able to walk in either from the existing community down the path we've just been talking about, or from the Keep Note scheme. It slightly disturbed me, the number of car parking spaces there were for staff, because it's easier for staff to come by public transport often than it is for parents with children. But I overcame my concerns in my own mind, because that will be available for community use as well. There are 36 car parking spaces for staff. How many members of staff are there? Well, are anticipated.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that this is not just a primary school, it's also a nursery and a specialist resource provision, which will include visiting specialists to deal with the needs of those particular children. And therefore, you know, it's a far larger staff than you'd expect in a traditional 2FE primary school.
So the answer to the question?
The answer to the question is it's just about adequate.
Now, how many staff?
Well, it's not actually possible to say, because we have a number that will be coming and going during the day to provide the specialist provision. So full-time staff, I would say around 28, 29, but the additional spaces are necessary because of the specialist provision and the nursery.
And good for community use.
Yeah.
I have to say, Chair, in defence, some of the local schools in our part of the world, teachers are coming from quite a long way away. Aren't necessary. These places aren't necessarily on bus routes that they can access. But I think you're quite correct in the fact that I was a bit concerned at first, but the fact that it's going to be double use for community as well. So sounds my concern.
Any other comments or questions? So thank you very much indeed. We normally then ask the supporters to leave the table while we have the discussion, but I'm not quite sure we're going to do that. If you just pull your chairs back a little bit, because it's important that any discussion now is amongst members. But it's a public discussion, so it's important that you can hear it. Right, views, anybody? I'd like to just say first that I think it's a good scheme. I think that the sawtooth design depends to a large extent on the quality of the materials that are going to be used for it to work. And I noticed that there's a condition on materials. I'm sure that the officers will ensure high quality materials. And I noticed that the head of design turned his head at that point, but I think we do need to ensure that when the material details come in, that they are of sufficiently high quality in order for that to work. That's my view.
We've seen experience of this now across where they were wonderful on the CGI, but when they actually built things, it wasn't quite as sharp as it would. So yeah,
but other contributions.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, any attractive or modern education facility is used by the community is to be welcomed, particularly when we look at the standard of many of our facilities around. So to me, I think it looks exciting, interesting, and with good community use, provided doesn't provide the nuisance element with the lights on, looking sports facilities and like, or excessive noise, or the transport of large numbers of children plus litter, of course, which is a feature of where children do tend to go as they walk towards schools.
Schools would be great if they had kids in them. Ruins it.
That's good fun too.
Anything else from?
I agree entirely. I think that I'm very pleased with that you took on board or was taken on board suggested at the previous meeting, which makes it all the more important to do the previous meetings because it does feed in. I think this will be an excellent exemplar of what can be done, both community, but almost importantly, environmentally as well. And I think that it's important of all the things we do at EDC that we create these exemplars that we can show off to other parts of the world. So yes, I do like it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with all that's been said. I really welcome the changes and the improvements. I mean, obviously, I'm still, and also welcome the fact that it will be used by the community because that is a very isolated community in that space, the cliffs and everything else. Yeah, and I would just be concerned to make sure that it's remained available and flexible for community use because I know some school halls aren't. So in terms of storage and seating and things like that, or what would be required, but I think it's great. Design. Happy.
So we can move to the recommendation. Unless there's anything you wish to add, carry on.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to move that we accept the recommendation and approve the details. Those in favour?
Agreed.
Yeah, well, I think that's unanimous and we thank the applicant for their response and look forward to being able to see the school used by the children.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much.
You can't make that such an
No. And the community. So that deals with item 5.
Excellent.
With that, so let's go on to item 6, planning activity report. This is for noting. Mark, is there anything you wish to say about
To say is the activity report for the final quarter of the year. Obviously, thank you to the team who have been getting the applications out on time. We have included some information on enforcement work in the report. I'm just trying to find it. 3.4, 3.5. I think moving forward into next year, we'll try to look at how we can be providing more incremental updates in terms of enforcement on the back of the planning enforcement plan that was approved January at the January committee meeting. We're obviously also aware of government consultations around sort of planning sort of performance criteria and stuff like that. So obviously the way in which this might be presented might change over the coming year. But yeah, this is for noting, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Shall we note the report? Note the report. Thank the officers for their work. Delegated items report, item 7.
Yes, there were 35 delegated decisions made between January and March. So I think you'll have to take any particular questions or the committee can follow up with the applicable officer afterwards.
Anything from anybody? No, well, we note the report. So that that's the end of our agenda. So I think the only thing left to do is to thank the officers for all their hard work in conjunction with the applicant, particularly on the school application, and which shows to me that working together achieves the desirable outcome, which we hopefully in due course will all be proud. So well done to everybody. Any other business from anybody? No, well, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
The meeting ends. Well, as all meetings